I got fired for accidentally making fun of the owner's disabled daughter. I feel terrible. Then she sent me a friend request. I got fired for accidentally being a jerk to the company owner's disabled daughter. I feel absolutely terrible for making fun of her. And now she sent me a friend request on Facebook. I worked at a mid-sized manufacturing company for 3 years. Good job, decent pay, solid team. I was a floor supervisor. My boss was a guy named Phil, and his boss was the owner, Mr. Hendricks. I'd met Mr. Hendricks maybe 4 times total. He kept to himself, showed up for quarterly meetings, and let the managers run things. I didn't know much about his personal life. I didn't know he had a daughter. I didn't know she had cerebral palsy. I didn't know any of that until the day I ruined everything. It happened on a Tuesday. We were short-staffed and behind on a shipment. I was stressed, running around the floor trying to keep things moving. Around noon, a woman walked in through the front entrance. She was maybe 25, walking with a limp, her left hand curled inward, and she was having trouble with the heavy door. She was heading toward the front office. 2 of my coworkers were standing near the break room. One of them nudged me and whispered, "Who let her in?" I should have ignored it. Instead, I laughed. And then I said something I will regret for the rest of my life. I said, "Probably wandered in off the street, looks lost." My coworkers laughed. The woman heard us. I know she heard us because she stopped walking, turned her head slightly, and then kept going. She didn't say anything. She just walked to the front office with her chin up. 20 minutes later, Phil pulled me into his office. His face was gray. He said, "That woman you joked about is Mr. Hendricks' daughter, Abby. She comes in once a month to have lunch with her father." I felt my stomach drop through the floor. Phil said Mr. Hendricks heard about what happened from the receptionist. He was livid. Phil said, "There's nothing I can do. He wants you gone today." I didn't argue. I didn't try to explain. What was I going to say? I was stressed and being an idiot? That doesn't undo what I said about a woman who did nothing wrong except walk through a door. I cleaned out my locker, turned in my badge, and drove home. I sat in my driveway for an hour because I couldn't bring myself to go inside and tell my wife I'd been fired for mocking a disabled woman. When I finally told her, she looked at me like she didn't recognize me. She said, "That doesn't sound like you." I said, "It wasn't me," but I still said it. She asked if I'd apologize. I said I didn't know how. I didn't have Abby's contact information. I didn't have Mr. Hendricks' personal number, and showing up at the company after being fired felt wrong. I spent the next week feeling like the worst person alive. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that woman stop walking and turn her head. She heard me laugh at her. She heard me say she looked lost. She walked into a building to eat lunch with her dad and got humiliated by a stranger who didn't even bother to ask who she was. I told my buddy what happened. He said everyone says dumb stuff under pressure. I said this wasn't dumb. This was cruel. And I didn't even have the excuse of meaning it. I said it to get a laugh. That's worse. I started applying for jobs. Nobody called back the first week. I figured word had gotten around. Small industry, people talk. Then, on a Thursday night, I was lying on the couch scrolling my phone when I saw it. A Facebook friend request from Abby Hendricks. Her profile picture was her smiling at a beach somewhere. I stared at it for 10 minutes. I showed my wife. She said, "Accept it." So I did. A minute later, a message came through. It said, "Hi, I know who you are. My dad told me what happened. I want you to know that I've heard worse. I've been hearing comments like that my whole life. It never stops hurting, but I've learned that most people who say things like that don't actually mean harm. They just don't think." I started typing an apology, but she sent another message before I finished. She said, "I'm not messaging you to make you feel worse. I'm messaging you because my dad said you didn't fight it. He said you didn't make excuses. He said you just left. That told me something about you." I typed back the longest message I've ever written. I told her I was sorry. I told her there was no excuse. I told her I'd been sick over it since it happened and that she deserved better than what I gave her that day. She wrote back, "Thank you. That means more than you know. Most people never say sorry. They just pretend it didn't happen." We talked for a while after that. She told me about her job as a graphic designer. She told me she volunteers at a camp for kids with disabilities. She told me she's heard every joke, every stare, every whispered comment since she was a child, and she still shows up everywhere with her chin up. She's braver than anyone I've ever met. I asked if there was anything I could do. She said, "Just be better. That's enough. I haven't gotten my job back. I don't expect to, but I message Abby every couple of weeks now. She always responds. My wife says it's the best thing that came out of the worst thing I've ever done. She's right.